Hello, good morning. How's everyone doing this morning? Hello. It is November 14th, 2025, 10:02 a.m. Central Standard Time here in the Midwest USA. How's everyone doing? Okay. Let me go ahead and share it to the Learn How to Make French Beaded Flowers Facebook group. Ooh, hang on. If you're on, say hello. You are joining me for another Bead and Chat live and Bead and Chat / help session live with me, Fen Li. Let me go ahead and share it to the Learn How to Make French Beaded Flowers Facebook group. I say it so much now that it's just it's kind of second nature, and I don't trip over my words there anymore. It's a long name. Learn How to Make French Beaded Flowers Facebook group. It's a mouthful. Okay. All right, that is shared. All right, hello everyone. Good morning. Today it is November 14th, 2025. I know it's November, 10:03 a.m. Central Standard Time. We are currently live on YouTube. We're currently live in the Fen Li Beadwork Instructor Facebook page, and I just shared it to the Learn How to Make French Beaded Flowers Facebook group. Hello, good morning. How's everyone doing? What's the weather like? What projects are you working on today? I kind of don't really have a project this morning, except maybe the project that I'm working on every single time that I've been on here, the Cosmos. Maybe I'll work on Cosmos. I realized that I shared the wrong event to the Learn How to Make French Beaded Flowers Facebook group yesterday. So, but you guys know I'm here every week. Every week. These are my office hours, so I normally have a project that I'm working on, usually a unfinished object, UFO, and I take questions from you guys. So if you have any questions about any of the projects that we're working on, any of your French beading projects, anything about French beading, put it in the chat, and I try to answer them on the spot as fast as I can. If you're on right now, say hello. Let me know what you're working on. What's the weather like? Okay. Let me go into the group here and see if everything is all right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Looks like hello, Natia. Good afternoon to you. What project are you working on? Okay, I think I know. You guys are working on your spruce trees, right? You're working on your spruce trees. I am not working on a spruce tree. I've been not working on a project, but I've been, in the past couple of days, I've been editing videos for my Bird of Paradise, and I realized like the whole PDF is done. I have all of it done, and I just need to edit the videos. Except I realized as I was editing the videos that for one of the petals, I didn't finish making the video for the petal. Now I'm trying to remember if I recorded it and it's on a different card or not. Well, let me look. Let me look. So this is the Bird of Paradise that I'm working on. So I think I will need to work on this and then finish the one that I'm working on in my project box. So this is the one for the video. This is the one I did for the PDF, working on the one for the video. And I think I will make one more just for testing out the kits. So lots of beading. But I need to finish the video first. But the last time I worked on this was in June, because that's when I think I stopped and to work on worked on different projects for like a bead along and stuff like that. And I think I just took a break during the summer. That's what I did. Yeah, I took a break for like June, July, June, July, most of August. Took a break. So let's see. Different view. Maybe like this. Okay. Ooh, keep my face in here. Okay. I forgot what I was looking at, but anyways, it's my project box for my bird of paradise. Let's see what things I have in here. So all my beads, all my units. I think I may have all of these finished. I need to lace these. These were not laced. I wonder if I had lace as you go. I think I probably did have lace as you go as part of the project, but then didn't have lacing wire, so I did not lace. So I'm trying to keep my head in the frame. But yay, my cameras are working today. Okay, maybe like this, scoot over a bit. What do I have? These are my kits. I think I may have shared this. I can just lace. I should just lace. Do I not have lacing wire? That's probably why I didn't lace, because I don't have lacing wire. But it'll be fun to try to figure out what I did again, right? It would be interesting. Okay. All right. So anyways, last week we had someone, Rose said she could not join our chat, or she tried to get in the chat but could not. So she emailed me instead with her question. So if you guys have a question and somehow you're not able to get on Facebook, and you're not able to get on YouTube to ask your questions, you can email me and I will try to do these on the live as well. So email me your questions if you aren't able to catch me live. Okay, let me switch off my camera. Natia says, I still have to download the next lesson onto my computer. Slowly getting around to assembling the white clover. Oh, you're still working on the clover. I thought you finished. Maybe I was wrong. Okay. So I'm going to work on this in a bit. I want to get to Rose's question. Let's see. Rose says, I've been beading jewelry since I was 10, and I was starting to get a bit bored with it, but French beading has awakened my love of beads. I think I've bought, okay, so yeah, so been beading for 40 years, and I just want to highlight this, that French beading has awakened your love of beads. So I love that. and that this is the craft that you've been searching for your whole life. I love that. So that's awesome. That's awesome, Rose. Okay, so on to Rose's question, but I just wanted to highlight that this is your craft. I'm glad you found it. I'm glad I found it like 20 years ago. So I found it earlier in life, but that's okay, right? We get there eventually. But I do like Rose. I do like making jewelry as well, and I discovered French beading before. Well, I guess I've been making like needle and thread, like necklaces and bracelets and stuff. So I kind of started making jewelry, right? But not jewelry like in wire wrap jewelry. So I learned jewelry making after I started French beading. So wire wrapped jewelry, right? Um, a lot later than French beading, probably about 10 years apart. And I have incorporated both of the techniques, the techniques of French beading into jewelry making. So I think you will find that you will use your you will use the knowledge that you have from your past 40 years of jewelry making into your French beading. You will see that you'll see how your brain will work, and you will see like, oh, this is what I can do to use these techniques, the jewelry making techniques, for the French beading. So I look forward to seeing your French beaded flower jewelry. So um, yeah. Okay, next. That was not a very good transition. Not a very good segue, right? I try to do that. I try to do that. Okay. The main question, really need pointers on lacing. Pretty bad at this. Well, we all need to practice. Um, it seems like my lacing, it deforms the petal or leaf, either pulls too tight or it's too loose. Okay. And well, when that happens, what I recommend that you do is you do lace as you go. And I see that you think that, um, okay, the next line says, I've been lacing as I go, which is kind of cheating, but has gotten me through. Okay, so don't think of it as cheating, because lacing as you go is not cheating, right? That is actually a technique that we use in order to lace our petals or leaves. And if something that you do is working for you, then go ahead and do it, right? That you're not cheating because you're using a technique that works for you. So don't try to think that I'm doing it this way, so therefore it's wrong because Fen does it in other ways. No, right? We all do things differently. Um, Other designers do things differently. Lauren does things differently than I do. That doesn't mean that she's right and I'm wrong, or I'm right and she's wrong. We just do things differently because we do what works best for us, right? So I wouldn't even think that. So if you have a problem lacing your petals, and lacing as you go works, then go ahead and do that, right? So don't think of it as cheating, because it definitely is not. If it works for you, then do that, right? Okay. Next, I'm currently working on a pattern that require me to lace the petals to each other. So the lace as you go isn't going to work. Any resources, suggestions? Yes, definitely practice will help. All right. Oh, hello, Rose. Nice of you to drop by. All right. Hello. Let me know what you're working on. Okay, so I did find some samples that I worked on I did find some samples that I was working on that I plan on taking apart. So I'm going to use this as an example. Let me switch screens. Okay. All right, let me take these apart because I want to take just one of the units. Okay, what is this flower I was working on? This is, why can't I think of the flower? Okay, begonia. I was working on begonias last October. Some of you may remember that I made these live, or I designed these live. And you know how I do. Promptly put away because I have other projects to work on. Okay, so we're going to try to lace these two things together, two petals together. And I'm going to use this green wire, and I'm also going to use a thicker lacing wire. Normally I use 30 gauge, but today I'm using 28 just so that it's thicker for the camera, not because I want you to lace with 28 gauge wire, but because it's thicker and you can see it better on the camera. This is like vintage wire, you guys. It's probably like over 20 years old. I bought this at an estate sale type thing for a woman that lives near here that made beaded flowers. Okay. And I've gotten this question a lot about the lacing, especially since Lauren did her Canterbury bells pattern, because she has you lace, two petals together after the fact of making the petals, right? Try to. So one thing before I start, it's okay if your lacing wires are not completely straight, because with the placement of the beads, right, sometimes they're just not straight. Sometimes the beads will kind of go this way, and sometimes the beads will go that way. So it's not always going to be completely straight. We try to do it as straight as we can, right? But it's not always going to be as straight as possible. So, okay, I'm going to show you the way that I'm going to show you one way of lacing. I'm going to show you a trick. And then also I'm going to show you how not to do it, right? Especially when we're lacing two petals together. Okay. So we're going to want to, especially when we're doing two petals together, we want to lace kind of lower onto the petal, right? Kind of lower onto the petal like this. Because if you do it higher, right here, then you're going to have this spot where you're going to try to lace these two together. And the higher you go, you're going to have this gap, right? You're going to have this gap right here, right? We'll definitely we'll do that later. But we want to start lower on to the petal, because when you try to lace the two petals together, you're not going to get a gap, right? You're just going to lace the last row of this petal and then the first row of this petal. Now, the higher you go, you're going to get this gap right here, because we don't want to lace heat. This would be like the absolute max of where I would go, but I would not. You definitely don't want to go here or here because you're going to get a huge gap here. So let's do it like lower. And I guess a good spot would be where the twisted wire starts. Hi, Ruby. How are you doing? What project are you working on? Okay, so we'll start lacing here. Okay. You guys, I am just so glad my cameras work today. I'm just so glad. Because last week, half an hour before, the camera would not connect. So that's why, if you were on last week, it was just all goofy. But, you know, the show must go on, right? So right here, because I use continuous wraparound loops, I may or may not be able to get this next row. If you are just hopping on, welcome. We are doing a Bead and Chat help session, and right now I am demoing how to lace 2 petals together. Okay, so another trick is if you don't like lacing all of these each individual together, you can skip a row if that might be easier for you. So I'm going to go and skip maybe a couple rows. Because sometimes, well, my philosophy is it's better to lace than not to lace, right? So because sometimes people will just skip lacing altogether because it's frustrating. But you know what? If you just skip a row, it's not perfect, but it gets done. So I skipped like 2 rows here. Oh, and also another thing when we're lacing 2 rows together, it kind of helps more if you do it because of the placement of the beads. It will be more like like it's kind of like an more like an N shape, right? So it's not straight. It's better if it's not straight if we're doing this, because I want this more like a slight curve, slight N shape. And you can always, if it becomes too curved, you can adjust it, right? So if it doesn't work here, I can take my wire and go down to the next bead like this. Or I can adjust and go to like in between these 2 beads. I'm going to do a slight curve. And this curve is slight. Well, is it intentional? It's maybe a little bit, because with the slight curve, I feel that it's easier to wrap the next petal in. Now let's lace this row and the last row here, and then the first row here together. Right. And it's better to have the wire go slanted down more than slanted up more. So slanted down. I'm just going to go right here, right next to it. So that's laced together. And I do want to lace the next row here. And then I can go ahead and be lazy and do every other row. So lacing is better than not lacing. You know how they tell people if you are overwhelmed, well, it's better to wash one dish than no dishes, right? Uh, okay. And usually with the last two or the first two, I do like to lace those in. So do the first two, and then you can skip lace, and then do the last two. And that usually that will keep it in shape. Okay. So, right, so it's in a curve, and then you would lace the next one in if you had another one. So if it looks like it's out of whack somehow, move your lacing wire this way or that way. Just change it up depending on the flow of your beads. Right. No, Rose, I'm in charge of the kitchen. I'm in charge of the kitchen, but still, one dish is better than no dishes. Right? Well, I mean, sometimes when you're in a funk, right? Like I'm just okay. Let's just do one. Okay, so now what happens if we lace, like for example, higher on here? Let's say do the middle, right? Let's do the middle instead. This is just as an example. Okay, so let's do the first two. And then we're going to skip. Let's skip a whole bunch because I'm in a rush. Let's just skip a whole bunch, just as an example. Usually I would say skip 2 or 3, right? I just want to show this as an example of what happens when you do it too high onto the petal here and you want to lace 2 petals together. So right here, because we are too high on to the petal, you're going to have this gap here. Well, like this. What you can do, I mean, you can pull the lacing wire together, and then it will bring the rows closer together, but only if it's not too high. But if you are doing that with all of your units, your petals will be, when you put them all together, let's, for example, you have 5 petals here. They're gonna all be scrunched up together like this, right? So it's better to do it lower onto the unit than higher onto the unit. All right. So this is the what not to do, which is still not horrible. But what I find that is, oh, you notice that I took the lacing wire and I slanted it down, slanted it down. If I slanted it up, it's going to go this way and you're going to have more of a gap. And also, as you go higher, there's a more likely chance of this lacing wire, right, breaking as the petals might get moved further apart. There's a higher likely chance of this lacing wire breaking. So having it lower will decrease that possibility. All right, here we go. And that's how we lace two petals together. Ugh. Okay, so if you guys have any questions on any of your projects, put them in the chat. Let me know what you're working on. And that is that. So I can finish working on my cosmos. And just before I came on today, I was looking at my project again. So I'm going to move aside. So if you look behind me, that is the trellis that I'm working on of wild roses, sweet peas, and I was going to put cosmos in there, like on the bottom as planted. But now I'm thinking, I think sweet peas are a spring flower. They can bloom in the summer, but I think they're more of a spring flower. And the wild roses are a late spring flower, like May, June. Yeah, like around June is when they bloom. And cosmos don't bloom until like midsummer to fall. So I'm thinking maybe I'm being too picky, like making sure that the flowers are in season. Like, let me know. Am I being too picky? Am I being too picky about this? Um, uh, I don't know. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. Or maybe I should just, whatever, and do cosmos, whatever. But I'm thinking maybe the peonies. I don't know if you can see the peonies there, but I thought maybe I could, since I'm working on peonies, I could use that instead. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if it's detail oriented, but maybe too picky about it. I mean, it's just beaded flowers, not, it's just beaded flowers. But anyways, I can finish my cosmos here. Rose says, are you making it for botanists? If not, they will probably not notice. No, it's just for me. It's for me to enjoy. I don't even know. It's just a project that I decided to do. It's the trellis is what? It's like around close to 5 feet tall. And it's just a lot of my bead along samples that I have. Just lots of samples that I have for my previous bead alongs that I'm doing something with. And as I am making it, I notice that I need to add more flowers. So I need to do more beading, even though I'm trying to use up my samples, right? So the peonies are a sample that I have. So ready-made flowers. My original idea was to do cosmos on the bottom. And if I was doing cosmos, I need to bead more cosmos. So which is what I've been doing, beading more cosmos. So, but you're right. I'm probably being too picky about it, right? Where are those petals? I had them. They were here. They were here. And now I don't see them. Where they go? Where are they? Oh, here they are. So I have all these things on my desk from all the times that I've been streaming that I didn't get to show you guys. Hello, Louise. Okay. Louise, let me know what you're working on. Okay, Natia says, that's exactly what I like about it, that you can make bouquets or similar arrangements that would never bloom together in the wild. Yep. All right. I hear you guys. I hear you. You're saying, Fen, you're being too picky. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. But then at the same time, I'm like, okay, do I want to make more cosmos? So, I thought I was done with the cosmos. Like I had to bead more, but I have one more that I can attach. So, I've been working on this here on these live streams since this summer. I have not made it. Have I? I have not. Have I made these outside of one of these Bead and Chats? So again, if you are just joining me, this is my office hours. I am just working on a project as you are working on a project. And if you have any questions on the projects that you're working on, put them in the chat. Okay. And of course, I don't have 30 gauge wire. Every time I'm on here attaching this, I don't have it. But we make do with what we've got. I'll use this. It looks a bit dark to me. I hope that's just my screen. Can you believe it that I used to be tech support to my family? And now I'm having all these problems, and I'm just like, the other day, a few days ago, last week, last week, we went out with some friends, and they wanted the clerk wanted my phone, like the brightness to be brighter. And I'm just like, I don't know how to do that. Can you believe I used to be tech support for my family? And now I don't know how to turn on the brightness on my phone. Ridiculous. Okay, Louise says, still working on Canterbury Bells. Okay. I think next month is next month. Is next month a catch-up month? I don't remember. If Lauren has something going on or if it's catch-up month, but I'm not doing a beat along, right? So we'll see. I don't remember. Hopefully you guys will get some time to catch up. That's why we're not doing as many beat alongs, because people can't keep up. We can't keep up, and you can't keep up, right? Okay. Rose wants to know, is there a trick to beading a petal with multiple colors? It seems that you would not be able to load the wire with both colors. You are correct. You cannot load the beads onto your spool of wire and bead that way. You need to cut your length of wire and then bead that way. So with this pattern, what I did was I loaded the white beads on, made the first, no, I didn't, because I had this tip here. So cut off a length of wire. First, cut off a length of wire, make your basic frame. And then for the second row, load up the amount of beads that I want, and then load up the beads for this part of the second row, load up these beads for this part of the second row, and then the remainder of the white, and then make the third row, right? So as you are progressing in your techniques, you'll be cutting lengths of wire instead of loading it all on. Okay, that looks good. Just gonna add some floral tape on here just because it looks like it needs some. Where's my scissors? Of course, I don't have it here. I think I need to buy tools for both of my desks here. Instead of like, oh, I'm working over here, I bring my tools over here. I'm working over here, I bring my tools over here. I need scissors on both desks. It's not far away, but when I'm, live, I don't want to move myself over there. Okay. Grab some leaves here. Then I'll read your question, Matthew. Let's do this. Okay, Natia wants to know, is it okay to lace your clover leaves? I seem to remember that it was once said that with leaves with 5 or more rows, it should be laced. Not 5, not necessarily 5. It all depends. You can lace with rows with 5 rows or less if your leaves are really long. So if your leaves are really long, that even if it's 5 rows or less, I would recommend lacing. Um, it all depends, right? But I think for the clover leaves, the size that they are, you if you want to, absolutely go ahead. But I don't think it's absolutely necessary. Well, I have it here, so let's take a look. If they are kind of like short, not so long, if they're shorter, then if they're shorter with less rows, it's basically your judgment, right? And looking at this, and I judge, and I said, oh, it's probably I have a camera right here. What am I doing? Um, it's probably not necessary. Um, is this really dark? Let me change the brightness on here because it seems really dark for some reason. Maybe it got moved somehow. Now, is this too bright? Maybe too bright. Oh gosh. Ugh. All right, I think that's okay. So it all depends. And also it depends on your beading style too. If you bead more loose, right? If you bead tightly, then it's probably okay to not lace for how many rows is this? I think this is 9 or 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, normally I think with 9 rows, it's a judgment call, right? So 7 to 9 rows, it's a judgment call depending on how long your leaf or petal is. So I have laced and I haven't laced. So if you want to, go ahead. Go ahead. Um, but that is a good question. So that's a very good question. It's a judgment call. Okay. So can you believe it? It's almost the hour is almost over. Okay, so let me go ahead and lace this here. So put your questions in the chat or whatever you want to talk about. As I am finishing this up, I do want to take my pliers and crush this here because it just looks a little bumpy. Time passes quickly when you're having fun. Yes, Natia, I do believe it does look better. The laced petals do look a lot better. But like I said, also a judgment call depending on your beading style too. If however you bead your petals and leaves, if it looks okay, I think it's because I use the thicker wire for assembly. That's what it's doing. I don't. You never know. I may go back and just lace all those leaves. I probably won't. I think it's because I do bead really tight. I'm just looking at the leaves here because I bead really tight, and with the amount of petals, it's fine. And because it is, it was a, or I mean, it is a beginner level project, I did not want to overwhelm the students with more techniques. So those are the little things that I consider if I want to include a technique or not, the audience. Okay. How does this look? Is it blurry or fine? This is why I'm not doing the live lessons anymore, because my internet is just not set up for it. So this is just for funs. I'm glad you think so, Rose. I'm glad you think so. Sometimes I'm just up here going stumbling around and you guys still find it fun, so that's good. That's good. Stumbling around with my tech problems, right? My equipment problems. And then I bore you with it afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to add the leaf next. We'll do the smaller one. So last week I asked, should I do the bird of paradise next or peonies next? I guess I'm working on bird of paradise because I realized the PDF is completely done. Just need the videos edited and finished. So a lot of it is already done. I think that the peonies PDF I have partially done. So I'm going to go with the one that's completely done. And what the heck? There's a knot in here. And the bird of paradise was one of the most fun that I've had designing something. It was just really fun. So I think it's more like an intermediate slash advanced project. And it is a project that has multiple colors. It has like the most colors beads I have ever used. I was editing my video yesterday, and in it I said, "You're going to need 5 bead spinners." And my husband was like, he heard that and he was like, "You don't need 5 bead spinners. That's just your way of selling more bead spinners." But no, I mean, it's what I do. It's what I use, right? It's easier to use 5 bead spinners. If you don't have 5 bead spinners, you can make do with what you have. All right, I think that is done. All right, so I did this last week. Okay, Nati says, last week someone else had problems with technical equipment. It's not always you. uh, but it feels like it's always me, right? It feels like it. All right. I'm going to get rid of that second camera because like when I'm doing the flossing, it's easier to hold it up like this than for me to do it here. It's like awkward when I'm trying to film me doing stuff like using the overhead camera. It's more awkward. So if I hold it up like this, it's a lot easier. It's more natural for me to do this. And because it's not a tutorial, I just do whatever, right? Okay. Oops. And I really, really need to clean my studio. Like all the streams that I've had, since the summer, the things are still lying around on my desk. So I still have books here. Um, Everything that's back there is still back there. They're not put away. So it went straight from coming in here every week to do the streams and then leaving right away, and then doing the beat along. Like just trying to get that done. So there was absolutely no time to clean up. I think now that the beat along is done, in between projects, I need to just go ahead and tidy up because it's driving me mad. Okay. Do I need more? Like at this point, I'm not even following the directions in my tutorial because I was just doing whatever. Ooh. Okay, I think this is it. If you have any last minute questions, drop it in the chat before I'm done. Trim this here. Flying wires. Natia wants to know, is it better to wrap the embroidery floss around the stem with the weight facing down? Yes. And then you need to be aware of where you start the embroidery floss. So sometimes, depending on where I start the wrapping, I'm normally not paying attention to if I'm wrapping left or if I'm wrapping right. So depending on where I started, if I wrap this way, I may have my stem facing up. But if I wrap that way, then I may need to do this and then wrap this way. So if you want to have the head of the flowers facing down, just be very aware if you're wrapping when you start, if you're wrapping left, if you're wrapping right, right? And I guess it also depends on if you're left-handed or right-handed. So a lot of times I will start wrapping and then I will have the head of the flowers facing down. But if I did not start it correctly, then most of the time it doesn't really matter unless it is a very heavy flower, which I have done. What was that? I don't remember what flower I did on a live where I was wrapping and then it was really, really heavy. Was it a sunflower or was it something else? It was, I don't remember what it was. But because I started the wrapping a certain way, I could not turn the head of the flower down. So be very aware if you really want to have the head facing down, if you're wrapping this way or if you're wrapping that way. But for this, for a very not heavy flower, it's no big deal. Yeah, I think it was sunflower. I could not. Where's my sunflower? Yeah. Yeah, I think it was sunflower. I could not finish wrapping because it was so heavy. But at the same time, is because I started it a certain way, so I could not turn my flower around. And I don't pay attention to where I start most of the time. Yeah, it was, you're right, Natia, it was the sunflower. But for this, no big deal. But I just don't, I just like to hold my flower instead of like having it face down this way with the overhead camera, because it is really hard for me to wrap like that. So, all right. I think this is it. And I may have used too thin of a wire. Let me read the directions because I may not have followed my direction. Yep. I didn't follow directions. And that's why it's kind of flimsy. I should have followed directions. It says for the top flower, I should have used a 16 gauge stem wire for the main wire, and I use 18. So it's a bit more flimsy. If I add another stem, that'll make it more stable. So I probably will add another stem. So that's what happens when you don't follow directions. Don't be like me. Don't be like me and not follow my own directions. I do good the first time, but as I make subsequent flowers, I think I know what I'm doing, but I don't. So, anyways, thank you everybody for joining me today for another live Bead and Chat and Help session. And same time, same place next week. Next week, Friday. What day is it? I think it was the 21st. Yeah. So next week, same time, same place, November 21st. Be here.